All right, guys, we're going to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. You ready? I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Yes, that's what we do every morning. We're excited to celebrate. We have some of our members of our drama club. They put in a lot of hard work this fall semester, and they performed Alice in Wonderland on February 6th. One show for our students during the day, then one for parents and community in the evening. And they really did an outstanding job. All their hard work. Ms. Copeland is our fearless leader of the drama club. We jokingly said that's because she leads all the drama. And then Ms. Bailey helped assist her and stuff. So we're really fortunate for their work with our students, and they really enjoyed what they did. So wanted to. This is Miss Aubrey, Alice number 5. So we had so many kids come out. We had 5 Alices during the story. And so they really did a fantastic job. So want to recognize them. We have some certificates Ms. Copeland will hand out. And come on in. And so we're going to recognize all of our participants that are here. I'll let Ms. Copeland do that.
Where do you want them to go? Just stand?
So what they can do is they will go and shake their
And
hands.
then you're going to go right down the table and shake hands.
Is there any title? DNA Mendoza. Emery Rodriguez. Anthony Chacon. Messiah Lucero. Niglia Fowler. Like a baby. DM Galindo. Lila Dia. Aubrey Brzezowski. Joel Bailey. And Caden Stern.
So they did a really good job. She didn't say her name, so Ms. Copeland did an outstanding job. So a couple other 2 notes. One, Ms. Janae Mendoza is our spelling bee champion. So she had 2 busy days. Big round of applause for her. She won the spelling bee on the 5th and then performs in our drama club on the 6th. The other thing to celebrate is we have an author in the building. Okay, Ms. Copeland. Last week, her first book got published. And it's an outstanding, it's a tough read, it makes you cry, but it's a really good book. So we're really proud of her effort and all these students and what they do every day. So big round of applause for them. All right, guys, thank you all. Parents, if y'all want to stay, you're more than welcome to stay, or you can jet. There is a presentation across the street with Forever 15. I would highly encourage you to go over and listen to that presentation.
It's happy on Monday. Wrong step. Good job, guys.
Because we're too hard.
These courts are having Monday. think I got it to stop glitching.
Cable is.
I think the port's loose, all three of them. Replay the whole. There you go.
Oh, okay, things are back to normal.
All right, any questions about the agenda? I just seen a motion to approve.
So moved.
I'll say. Second by Dusty. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. Public comment, everybody left. So again. Miss Jolene's first.
I just passed out the budget adjustments. Just moving some money around for where there's some shortfalls. And on the Mexico prepay, they're allowing it to be spent out. So I have moved some money out of some salary lines and moved into asset and supply lines. I think Mr. Williams has a plan for spending all that money out. The next one is on the literacy grant. That as well, I'm moving some money to a line where I can get some books for that program. It's gotta happen in March because the 31st is the deadline for that. And we have to put in for a request for reimbursements by April 15th. And that- We were going to NASBO, which is an Association of School Business. Me and Raquel and Carmen, we go twice a year. We just got back from that this last week. So. It's been busy trying to catch up today.
Any questions for Ms. Jolene? Thank you. Mr. Barbie?
Brazos Fire out of Albuquerque came down on the February the 5th and did our biannual inspection of the kitchen range hood fire suppression system. We're in the process of removing some graffiti at the football stadium where the bleachers and doors on the dungeon got hit and just a little bit on the track. Also started tilling the foam and triple jump pits and some other work at the track field, getting ready for the track season. On the 17th of February, inmates from RCC came out since we didn't have any students and finished some painting, cleaned gutters, and picked up trash around the campus and football field. Miss Reyes and her husband cooked for them and they left full and happy. We're still having to deal with lots of plumbing issues and doors not locking properly. Also getting ready for bus inspection on March the 6th.
Any questions for Barbie? Did we ever find out anything about the bus? Last meeting, we talked about possibly getting it deleted or figuring out what was going on with it, or?
It's kind of,
I'll go ahead and answer that one. So I actually contacted the Hamels and they do have, we could go both ways. So this bus is probably like 15 years old, 15, maybe 18 years old. So if we pay to get it fixed, it's going to be a good $12,000 to $15,000, which is a lot of money. Okay. And then we have to retire it in 3 years. Now, the thing is that I believe in the past, it's already been fixed like 3 times. So I don't know totals, Gary, how much has it been spent? And
it's usually about 12 grand every time.
and then it doesn't work. So then I contacted the Hamels and they do have a company from, I believe it's from Guatemala. And then what they do is they purchase buses. So we'll probably get anywhere from $3,000 to $5,000, for that bus. And I think it'll probably be the better route to go because if we spend another $12,000 and then we have to retire the bus in 2 or 3 years. So open for suggestions on what, you want us to do with that.
Bus is only worth $3,000.
That's pretty much what they, once that they're already old, they're not worth it. If we can pay $15,000 to get it fixed, and then it'll work for maybe 2-3 years, and then in 3 years, we have to retire it. That's it.
What have we done in the past whenever we retire a bus? Where does it go? Does it just go to state auction?
No, last time Tillery took them and we traded them in on the bus. On the Bobcat too.
I want to see what they offer on trade.
I think for the little bus, we got maybe 1,500, and for the bigger bus, we got 2,500.
You need a bus, Chris?
And they were running, this computer's not running.
This one has been parked for how long?
At least 8 years probably.
No sense paying to delete it if 3 years we can't use it. It's not gonna be cheap to delete it. Legally.
Well, if it'd be $12,000, no.
Yeah. I don't know.
We can try to, get it fixed and then be able to use it. If we use it, it has to be like short
Short,
trips.
yeah.
Mhm.
The air conditioners never had worked very well on that bus. We had them worked on several times and they never did. The heaters don't work very good. We'll have to buy new batteries to put in it.
Mr. Williams.
Sounds like it's a limit.
Something we'll do to be honest.
Dud.
What would be our responsibility if they sold it to the Guatemalans, though? Would they take it as is?
So basically what they do, my understanding is that they pretty much rebuild everything. And then, there's no guidelines for them. But then we do have to retire it.
Right, but as far as us, they're not gonna require us to have it running or batteries or,
No,
They just
they
take it
take it
as
as is.
Our name off of there though, right?
Probably,
Hagerman School
yes.
Bus.
Like that.
I was around Baltimore.
And we can try to get it fixed. I wish that would have been done 8 years
I don't know
ago,
if it's
but
worth it.
At this point. Do we have like an online PO deal, like purchase orders are being turned in yet?
we do have, and it's called, I always say hey dude, but what is it called? Hey dude is the shoes. The school dude, yes, thank you. And so yes, we do have that, and so Carmen puts in all the work orders. When Mr. Barbie, when he got training, as soon as he finishes the work, whatever needs to be done, then he has to close it out.
Does that work pretty good?
Yeah, I'm just behind on it. You have to, I don't get anything else done when I'm doing that, so, it's tough to try to get it all worked in.
I see.
But it is a must, though. It's something that needs to be done.
Okay.
And that was one of the, prerequisites when we applied for the new school, having a preventative maintenance plan, and that's part of it.
Any other questions? Special ed.
Hey, everybody. All right. Wonderful world of special ed. Our corrective action plan is finally over. Well, I've been working on it for 3 years. And we can probably thank Mr. Williams for, as soon as he got on our Zoom, he charmed the people in Santa Fe, and the next day it was over. So props to him. It's nothing I did. Indicator 13 file review. And that was our indicator 11 problem for the corrective action plan. Our indicator 13 file review went fine. No one's mention anything to me, so I called some other districts and they said they'll call you if there's a problem. If there's no problem, you have to go onto the site and get your data, which means it's either 100% or you failed. That's the way these work. You guys understand all this indicator business I say with indicator 1, 9, 8, 14? If you want, I got a cheat sheet here for you guys. And so like a semester's worth can be hacked out in 5 minutes. And you can just look at this. These are the 20 indicators that special ed has got to be held in compliance. And I'm not going to go into any of them, but at least then you can kind of look down and go, oh, you're required to do all these different things. Apparently there's, they invented 5 more indicators, but I don't think they've quite gone through yet. So for instance, I just finished indicator 13, that's secondary transition. I don't need to go into it, but at least that way you guys kind of know all the SPED lingo. Also, let's see what else we got. Spring SPED Academy is coming in late April. That'll be helpful. Child Find is March 14th. And other than that, we're just kind of plugging along. We're averaging about 6 IEPs and evals every week. See, maybe, what else? Maybe just a note, a big shout out to Crystal Pisania at the high school. She's been kicking butt and helping me a lot lately. She's always proactive and wants to work collaboratively. It's really a great help up there at that level. Any questions with any of this business?
We're still looking for a SPED teacher in the elementary, is that right?
We're always looking for SPED teachers at all times. Even if there's not an opening, we hire them. Hope so, but yes, we are. Yeah.
So right now we do have an opening for an elementary and then also a secondary. So we're hoping that we'll be able to find, just.
I interview everybody who comes through the New Mexico route. You've met some interesting folks.
Yeah.
It's a tough gig, you know.
Okay.
Thank
Any
you.
other questions? Thank you.
All right.
Yes, sir. That's all right.
So he is over at the game, so he couldn't make it, but, we just briefly, so we've done a transition where, Officer Harrington is no longer gonna be the SRO and Officer Childress is the SRO now.
Perfect. Any questions?
We all good?
Is that a permanent or?
That is a permanent.
Okay.
Yeah, no, that's permanent.
All right, elementary.
Been a busy couple weeks. Right after the last board meeting, Ms. Copeland, Ms. Lopez, Ms. Rodriguez, and I went to San Antonio for the High Reliability Summit. It was a very good 3 days there. Marzano Resources, which is one of the leaders in education, they have a high reliability schools framework. And you're looking at safety and supportiveness, instruction, curriculum, competency based. And so it's in essence, you have leading indicators and trying to get this, and then you just build. So it's really a good framework. We started working through it, just how can we do some things well and improve what we're doing there at the elementary. So that's been a good thing. We had a spelling bee on February 5th. You saw Ms. B&A there. Bristol Munoz got second and Mercedes Lopez got third. That was a really good event. Shout out to Ms. Dees for her work on that one. We had a little bit over 35 kids participate, all the way down from first grade to fifth grade and stuff. So it was good. February 6th, we recognized the drama club. Ms. Copeland and Ms. Bailey did a really good job of working with those kids. They started about September, February 6th, every Tuesday and Thursday, and really just did a fantastic job with those kids. We had parent-teacher conference last week, We're in the 80s as far as parents who've met. We had one teacher who had an emergency, so she wasn't able to meet with her parents, but she's doing it now and stuff. So we'll be high 90s, if not 100%. A couple other meetings are still outstanding that parents have planned with the teacher, just couldn't meet those 2 days. So you see on there our February super readers, amazing mathematicians. February was integrity month, and so we had students of the month, and then our pride referrals. A couple things coming up on Wednesday. We have a house day. Excited. All house days are fun. This one's I'm looking forward to. We have our house leadership, and so kids are running for president, vice president, secretary, reporter, and historian for their house. So we have some campaign posters. And then on Wednesday, kids will give like a 1 to 3 minute speech and stuff. So looking forward to those. On Friday, the 28th, we'll have an IXL on-site training. They're flying somebody in. They're going to train all of our teachers and some secondary teachers on IXL and how we can best use that platform. The 4th, we have a STEM night. NIMI is coming back out for a STEM night. And so we're looking forward to that. Mr. Lassard has alluded to, we'll have Child Find, but pre-K kinder roundup March 14th. And so it'll be time we can see who we'll have coming in next year, what our numbers look like. We'll do some screenings, and that'll give us plenty of time to evaluate and get that paperwork done before the end of the year. Then we'll have spring break, which we're all looking forward to. Then when we get back on the 28th, we have a Spanish spelling bee. And that got moved, I think, at 1 o'clock on the 28th. And then our staff will have another training with the gentleman, John Konsick. He's coming in, doing some PSYOP training, some instruction training with our staff. So we're looking forward to that. So it's a busy time. It's just busier all the way down through the spring and stuff. And so I appreciate all the staff's hard work with the kids and everything that they do for our students. So, I stand for any questions.
Thank you. Any questions, Mr. Williams? Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Dennis?
Okay, I'm gonna try to keep it brief because I know we have a lot of things to get through today. Enrollment in middle school, high school, if you're interested in that, we're at 68 at the middle school. 31, 23, and 14 is the breakdown there, 6th, 7th, and 8th. High school's at 98, and it's 20, 29, 24, and 25. All secondary together is 166. Probably go up a little bit because I think we have some kids that'll be coming back soon, maybe, but we don't know.
Hopefully the end of this week.
Okay,
I was gonna ask you.
That'll help with a couple places. Attendance is still seeing real positive trends. Letters are going out weekly, phone calls happen daily. We have a couple of kids that have kind of hit some threshold where they need intervention, and between Ms. Pata, Coach A-Rod, and myself, we are taking care of that and trying to address that on the front side rather than the back side of things. Lots of stuff going on. If I try to start naming off things that we've been doing, I will leave lots of things out. I know that middle school had a very successful Valentine's dance. Apparently our middle schoolers really enjoy dancing. Huge crowds at the 2 middle school dances we've had. They had a great Candy Graham fundraiser. Their middle school student council's done a lot of things. Junior class is preparing for prom, and they've been making about 200 a weekend, I think, at the Little League games. And they're on tap to do a big prom on April 26th is the date for that. And this Friday, our middle school students will have another opportunity for a 4-H Friday. The cooperative extension is coming down once a month on Fridays, and for their core support classes, doing little activities. If you have a middle school kid and they came home with a cornhusk doll, that is why, because they did a New Mexico education and made cornhusk dolls. We had cornhusk dolls all over this place that day. This week is on beekeeping, and I have no idea what that entails. It may be the little bee robots, or hopefully it's not real bees, but that's what Friday holds, and then they'll do one more in March. But the deadline for 4-H enrollment is March 31st, so we have a few kids who have expressed interest in becoming active in the organization, which is great, and it's exposing them to some different things. Parent-teacher conferences, it was a really cool thing. We only have 8 middle schoolers that required presence to come, because any student with an F got a phone call that somebody needed to come pick up their progress report. There was only 8 phone calls I had to make, and 7 of the 8 people showed up to get their kids' report. So that was good. High school, there was a few more on the list, but they had really good attendance. I think Ms. Denny had a line in the Commons area consistently for the 2 days that we had parent teacher conferences, but it was good attendance. I don't have exact numbers for that, but it seemed very positive, and the parent meetings that we had went well. Don't have anything else in regards to building reports at this time, but any questions that I can answer?
Any questions for Ms. Dennis?
Do you want me to?
Until we do time.
Okay.
Perfect.
Yeah, I got some stuff. Judging season has started in full swing for FFA. We've had a great turnout. We have about 33 kids traveling with us on average, so it's a large number for us. I think in the last 3 years, I haven't had more than 24 kids. So it's a good turnout. Our program's growing, which is good, positive signs. As of right now, we have 4 teams qualified for state, agronomy, nursery, wool, and milk quality. Agronomy and nursery has met the chapter requirements of going to state. Now we're working on the rest of the teams to meet those small requirements. So it's been good. It's been long weekends, all that fun stuff. We're heading to our 3rd contest this next weekend in Hot Springs. We'll leave Friday night and stay at Cruces and then drive up, so we're not leaving so early the next day. We're kind of in a holdout pattern, kind of seeing what transportation is going to look like with basketball and track and all the fun stuff. CT grant season is full swing now. Our APR has opened our annual performance review for Next Gen Perkins. It's a little bit of requirements that we have to fill out on data and analyze data. This will be the last year of data Ms. Reyes and I have not done ourselves. And so we're seeing the light of future and growth of what CT looks like for us. I have officially finished our APR this morning or this afternoon and submitted it or sent it to review before Ms. Reyes takes a look at it. We're having to do something called a PIP, a performance improvement plan for our math, English, and science. It's really targeted towards CT classes, so my classes or business classes, general ag classes, things like that, and how to improve these performance standards and numbers. CT uses the denominators, numerators, and things like that, and pulls random characteristics of kids. And our district is improving, just not as fast as the state would see. We had to do the PIPs last year. This year, the state is requiring every school district to do a math PIP. And so submitted that. Hopefully we get good feedback, or unless they're going to tell me to rewrite the whole thing. Who knows? They did it to me last year. The last thing I kind of have on CT is state change course framework. So I'm working on adapting what we have in our district and how our courses lay out for ag, welding, business. Most of our CT classes, how it's going to translate into the new framework. Still waiting for the new framework to actually land in my email. They have not sent that out yet. And so I've been working blind, kind of cleaning up what our stuff says until I get that official email from the CCRB. And for that, I stand for questions.
Any questions?
We are looking at about 115,000 we're going to get between Perkins and Next Gen this year. So that is an increase of about $8,000 from last year.
What is that one gonna be used for?
That money, so Perkins is the federal funding, and that's gonna be about 15,000. That could be used for equipment, material purchases, curriculum, professional development. That one has strict guidelines that we can spend on. And so like we haven't fully touched our Perkins just because it has strict guidelines on it. And then Next Gen is the state federal funded money. And so that could be buying official dress. It could be paying for transportation for students to conventions, contests. I know this year it covered all of our judging card, all of our registration fees between FFA and business. We could put in there for larger pieces of equipment. We could put stipends in there. There's a wide variety of things in there. And so until the application this year opens, we don't have a direct budget of what we're going to use it towards yet until Ms. Reyes and I meet with the application. But it has some very flexible but very strict policies. Ms. Dennis sat through the lovely January.
Basically in Hebrew.
Yeah, it was in Hebrew for her. We got to watch business managers fight over buffs and bars, and all that stuff, but this last year, we primarily used it to fund any materials, student transportation for state events, registration costs, materials, and equipment,
For FFA or
any CT classes. So
any CT?
So business got to use it for their registration for their state conferences, their membership dues, things like that. FFA got to use it for our judging season, our dues. Trying to think what else we've used it for. Transportation costs. It does cover professional development for our CT teachers. And so it has covered some of that stuff. We're going to cover future professional development as we go through the rest of the year. It has to be used for the way the wording says now, it has to be used in a true pathway. And so if it's not written into the application with a true pathway, so, okay, ag, high school ag, horticulture, or high school welding, those are true pathways. They have a sequence of a introduction, concentrator, completer, in a sense. Business has an introduction, concentrator, completer. Only those two programs can use it for career tech. We do have journalism classes, but they do not have that sequence that we can't write into the application for it. Sounds a lot of Hebrew.
Student working.
Oh, yes, we are looking into, so like we do have a young student that's working for us this year, helping with the custodial and maintenance. There's possibilities. I'm waiting on the correct answer from our Region K coach. She's been busy trying to get the new framework and all the courses out and answering all my million questions. But there's possibility where we can actually help use that funds to help pay for student workers for us that might be interning and doing things like that as well.
Cool.
The more we apply for this and keep using this grant, the more we get every year. If we don't use it, they take it away, we don't get it again.
I want that. All right, thank you. Is that it, Ms. Reyes?
Yes.
Okay. All right, moving on. Next item is the consent motion for the regular meeting and work session for January. And the investments and bills for the month of January. Are there any questions or concerns there? See a motion to approve.
Make the motion.
Moved by Trevor. I'll second. Second by Dusty. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Okay. Item A is the budget adjustments. Any more questions for Ms. Jolene? See a motion to approve.
So moved.
Moved by Chris. I'll second. Second by Dusty. All those in
President
favor say
Moss,
aye.
do you mind if we kind of move around a little bit? I have Mrs. Montes that needs to go to the game, and then Mr. Williams that also needs to go to the elementary auditorium and just kind of play admin here. So can we skip over to item D? So that Mrs. Montes can do this one, if you're okay with it?
Yeah. Item A, is everybody in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Aye.
Item D.
It's the approval of the portrait of a graduate and local graduation requirements. And I have in your packet, you have
Okay, F on this one.
it would be an infographic like this, and I'm not gonna take credit for this infographic. This is all the work of Tara Dunn. She did all the hard work of making this look nice. Tara and Coach Rodriguez and I met, I'm not sure, can't remember when it was since we came back from Christmas. And we were tasked with having the portrait of a graduate. Every district is supposed to have one. And we looked at several other examples and figured out the things that we wanted to include in the portrait of a graduate and came up with these 5 things that we expect our students to be: critical thinkers, lifelong learners, socially and emotionally competent, effective leaders, and connected citizens. And then kind of, as you can read through there, there's some different bullet points of what each of those things looks like. We believe that this is something that is attainable for all of our students and gives us a direction to move with our teachers and things that they can work on independently in their classrooms. So when a student graduates from Hagerman High School, they are capable of doing these things, or that's what we expect a graduate from Hagerman to look like. So Tara was not happy with the overall thing. She said there may be a few tweaks to the design. She thought that aesthetically it could be a little more pleasing, but she wanted to get us this today. so we can have it, and before if it's approved, we'll make big posters and get it shared far and wide. Oh, yeah, and I do have some extra copies of. Anybody would like to see one? Oh, sorry, let me go there, actually. Oh, see that one?
Does this follow this?
Yeah, I was gonna say, is there more?
So
There's two things, they're independent of each other, but both of them are things that we have worked on to get approval from you guys today.
So they kind of go hand in hand. So the first one is the portrait of a graduate, which is what you have right now. But then this right here is embedded, which is the local graduation requirements. And then Parker will discuss that.
And we did work on this, that portrait, the graduation requirements, we also have to have those in place when so the 8th graders now, when they start their freshman year in the fall, they will fall under the new graduation requirements outlined by the state. So we met last week to iron this out because we were waiting to find out how we wanted it to, and if we could, because they've changed the requirement previously, we had discussed having financial literacy as a local requirement. That is now a state requirement and we can't double count it. We had to come up with our own new local requirement because that is going to be something that, starting with the freshmen next year, they will all have to have financial literacy as part of their math sequence.
Class 2029.
Yeah. So.
And this kind of follows, PED is turning and changing everything this year. They're in that phase of, let's do something new, let's change it. And so they're putting all this stuff out, and it kind of comes along with a lot of the laws that was signed into effect in January. We learned about this when we went to the CCRB leadership workshop in January. They changed a lot, and it kind of follows with the core sequence and things like that. And kind of the way we picked it was our preferred local graduation requirement was to kind of meet requirements. Everything has to be a sequence pathway, as I stated earlier, the intro, concentrator, completer. And so we decided as our little committee was a minimum of 1 agriculture education class and a minimum of 1 business class. That way they're taking both pathways and they get to choose after that if they're wanting to stay in this pathway or that next pathway. And it gives them time to follow those pathways. We're in a unique situation. We're not like the big districts. The big districts, their counselors aren't going to be able to change schedules no more after freshman year. Like you're gonna be stuck in that pathway after that because they want that data. Our kids don't have many options here.
Most of them are already doing this anyways.
Yeah.
We looked at the senior class now, and there's probably 5 or less students who haven't already done this. There's a handful that have only stayed either strictly business or strictly ag, but most of our kids are already getting 2 classes.
And by that time, they have taken 1 class no matter what. And it feels like it grow both programs. We have some kids that are like, well, I really don't want to take business. I don't want to take ag, and they're not going to take either. And then they finally do take it, and they're like, oh, wow, I actually do enjoy this. And so it's kind of forcing them into there and getting them more involved. The alternative plan we had come up, just in case you guys wanted something different, was a single credit in a 1 pathway, CT pathway, either ag or business. That's kind of how it's stated now. And then a dual credit class. The hard thing with dual credit is not every kid's cut out for it. We could force them, we could drag them to water, but they're not going to drink the water. I had a young gentleman who was like, yeah, I'm all done home and take an ag dual credit class with us this year. He did nothing. He got a 0 in that class. And that class was pretty easy. And so putting these kids up for failure is not going to make them successful anymore. We feel the other 2 ways. The first option A was the most successful pathway. If you have any questions.
So these are related, but not the same things. Sorry.
A little different. Half of the same committee. This one affects CTE more.
So does this one have like a curriculum? Because it seems like
This doesn't have a curriculum. This is just like, as far as I understand it, this is Hagerman schools. This is what we're about. This is our vision for our students. Like,
I was gonna say, this should already kind of be implemented, right?
I believe that this came about prior to Ms. Reyes's leadership. It just never flew. There was conversations had, and I remember submitting stuff in a document one time, but it never went anywhere other than typing it into this document that was shared with people that not everybody had access to.
You're just gonna hand this out though, or?
Yeah,
post
well,
it
if you
on-
guys are good with it, and we may clean it up, make sure that there's not any major errors or anything like that before we go far and wide with it, but if you guys are good with this is what we see and that we want to really get behind and push our kids towards and say, hey, these are the things that we expect of you, these are the things, we're gonna provide you opportunities and classes and education so you can be this person. But, really, especially, it's probably more important to have it in place for the fall so we can really hammer it home as we start these kids on like this new freshman class that'll come in and like working to our kids, hey, can you at the end of your senior year check off that you are this person? Is how we as a committee envisioned it. And there's lots of, if you Google Portrait of a Graduate in different districts, you'll see all kinds of stuff. There's ones with trees and leaves and they've all taken a different, I think, we looked at Lake Arthur's because we looked at some of our neighbors and there's a picture of like an actual graduate and it's got some like little bullet points coming off the side. Everybody envisions it differently, but I think it's really like a quick thing, like what is our school about and what are we about as education, like
This is
for
where our
students.
seniors are gonna graduate as.
Right, and that's what we want to see our kids be, these kind of people. That's how I understood it, because there's more to it than that. And as far as the graduation requirements, we just have to have this on paper, so when we revise our handbook and all that kind of stuff, we can say, these are the new graduation requirements that have now come out from the state. The other thing that I understood from all the stuff that I went to when I went to the Hebrew meeting with Mr. Parker, what the CTE thing is that now there's gonna be 3 different classes, I think, that 8th graders can take that will give them high school credit, but not till the kids that are 7th graders now are 8th graders, so the class of 2030, but I think there's still more information forthcoming on that, but as the things always change at that point.
Ask me that Monday when I get the email,
So,
because
but we've seen lots of different things, but for now, this is what we would like to see happen as far as our local graduation requirements.
So we just need to choose preferred local or retro.
Yeah, do you like option A or option B?
Option B.
Yeah, is it- like option A, is that gonna affect a person that wants to do ag every semester?
No, because every year they have more than one elective. At some point in their high school career, they have to take, if they want to take ag every year, if they're gonna be gung-ho ag FFA and that sort of thing, at some point between freshman and senior year, they also need to take a business class to meet their graduation requirements.
and
Same is true for a kid that's gung-ho business and they don't ever want to take an ag class. At some point between freshman and senior year, you gotta take an ag class to graduate. That's just what we're saying, just so they get more exposure to the 2 career pathways that we offer, because that's where we're at. We have 2. If we
But
were
you
in a big.
mentioned that they would have to stick with that from freshman to
No.
senior.
No, that's, so they will have to stick with one of them because
that's a big
that's,
district, sorry, I phrased that wrong.
Okay.
yeah, in a big district, if they pick, like, if we were in a big district and we had health and business and ag and, all these others, they would pick that one and that would be it for the rest, after their freshman year, they won't be able to get out of their pathway because that'll be what they pick.
I
In a small school, we
phrased
don't-
that wrong, that was my bad, but, no, not for us. That's gonna once they take, and so after that, they will choose whatever kind of direction they wanna go. So if they're really more passionate about ag, they can take those ag pathways. And there's 2 directions in ag they can really go. They can go the
It has to be.
plant science and the ag mechanics side in ag. Right now, there's defined pathways, and then business, there's really one pathway they can go, which takes them through. And financial literacy technically counts as a business class. Because the way it's worked right now is fall semester is dual credit, spring semester is that financial literacy class, which is a business class. Or personal finance. not-
Yeah, personal finance.
And so, and all we have is business, ag, and FFA as our CT?
FFA and ag are the same thing. FFA is the organization that goes with ag
Yeah,
education.
so our true defined pathways are business and agriculture education.
Well-
Those are the only 2 pathways that have a true sequence that fit in. Now, we do have other CTE classes such as cybersecurity. Systems Go does fall under CTE. Journalism falls under us. And those things, but there's not enough sequence for them that PED is going to consider them as a pathway. They
And
have,
then, of course, the new ones, which Mrs. McKinley here, she will be talking about it, during her presentation.
it's a lot of Hebrew, as Ms. Dennis keeps saying. There's so much that has changed this year. It's crazy.
What's considered a dual credit class? What kind of class?
Any college class that we offer.
Any college level, so
So
So I mean, the alternative method would be encouraging them to do more, right?
but the problem is that the reason that when Ms. Dunn and Coach Arod and Parker and I sat down, we're seeing some kids who are never gonna be successful in a dual credit class, and by letting them take a dual credit class, if they fail it here, that goes on their college transcript. And so when they start their freshman year, they're gonna start with an F or an incomplete, or something that's gonna really negatively impact their college career. Or maybe they don't have any aspirations of going to a college, onto college, and so that is also, there's nothing.
And so now,
Yeah.
most of our kids are taking 2 dual credits as it is. If they go through my ag mechanics program, they take my dual credit welding class. Or all the juniors and seniors are taking dual credit business right now. They're already taking those, or dual credit financial literacy, that's where it's taught through. The hard thing is I've just like Dennis was saying, I've had a few kids this year alone take some dual credit classes, and they're just like, whatever. This is high school. I don't have to worry about it. And now they've permanently impacted their record just because they're not have that motivation or drive to do it.
And I think the state has gotten away from requiring dual credit. That is not
The
something
state in Mexico does not recognize dual credit as a
requirement.
requirement anymore.
It used to be a requirement. I think with the seniors that are graduating this year, they had to have a dual credit in order to graduate.
They've gone away from dual credit AP. They don't recognize those anymore.
If you consider, like, what if those students that want to choose a path and they just do not want to do ag or do not want to do business? What if they fail those classes? I mean, same scenario, I guess.
And I mean, if you'd rather table it and go back to the drawing board, we can meet again and put some more work into it and come up with something else too. I just think we have to get something sooner rather than later.
I know I'll have to have something for our applications.
Okay.
And
Which
opening
the alternative is already in place, that's what we
Yeah.
do.
Yes.
Right, yeah, that's already what we're doing. And we can keep that, or add to, or amend it and kind of make a hybrid of the two, either 2 CTE classes and from different pathways, or a CTE class and a dual enrollment class. Because if we have kids that are highly motivated who do want that college credit, that would be.
And they do have 4 years to be able to take their class. so-
Right, and it wouldn't,
Mhm.
I know that Ms. Rodriguez asked a good side question that, would it impact a kid who, like, as far as, in order to be an FFA, they have to take at least a semester of ag every year to be eligible for their FFA membership, because it's required by this national charter that we have, they enrolled in ag, they can't just, FFA is not a club, it's an organization that is part of, it's intracurricular, not co-curricular, or extracurricular, sorry. And so, the other thing is that every year, every student, unless they've gotten themselves in credit trouble, should have at least 2 electives every year. And so, plus their athletics. There's plenty of options. We've tried to weigh it all and think about what was good for our kids. I know a lot of our kids are very rigid in their mindset, and they don't ever want to venture out of their comfort zone and take something different. And that is something else that we, as admin, consider that we would really want to encourage our kids to see what else is out there. Try something, try this, try cybersecurity, try a business class, try an ag class.
Any other comments? Choice A or B? Table it.
I kind of like maybe a little more thought, like a little more ideas brought,
So why don't we table it and then listen to Ms. McKinley's presentation a little bit, and then that will just kind of broaden the.
let's do that.
Mhm.
I move to table this.
Move to table it by Trevor.
Do we need to make the motion for a time period till like next meeting? Is this-
Yes, it has to be done by next meeting.
Okay.
Mhm.
So I make the amendment to the motion for until next meeting.
For just the graduation requirements or for both pieces?
Graduation requirements.
For this one.
Yeah, graduation requirements.
Are you looking to get this one out anyway? I mean.
We
did you just-
can, I mean, I think we
I don't know.
waited on it for a really long
Yeah.
time.
This is,
You know, I think this is more up to you guys and
Okay, well, then you guys are good with it, we'll run with it, and we can do that too. Unless,
I mean, we can get bring up Robert Rules of Order if we really need to separate the two, or we could just,
Do that one and then the other one.
Yeah.
Table it.
Do I have a second to table?
I'll second.
All those in favor to table this till, when is it? Next meeting? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Okay. Table.
Oh, nice one. I'll go pop my head in and make sure nothing crazy's happening.
And then we can go back to being President Moss.
We can go where?
Go back to
Item
being Wednesday.
Back to, alright. Item B, RBC Capital Markets. I think
So
she's
we
on.
do have, Kaylee, are you there?
Yes, ma'am, I am.
Okay.
All right. All right, well, Superintendent, unless you have something to say, I'm happy to go ahead and kick it off.
Go right ahead.
All right. Good evening, President, members of the board. My name is Kaylee Weimerskirch with RBC Capital Markets, your municipal advisor. I'm here tonight because in front of you are a couple resolutions that allow the district to go forward with the sale of $900,000 of general obligation bonds with the New Mexico Finance Authority. Before we get to those approvals, though, I do have a brief presentation for you. Am I able to share my screen? Are you guys able to see that?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, I'll begin to share my screen now then. Here we go. All right. Just to confirm, is everyone able to see my screen?
Not yet. There.
Great. All right. All right. So first, looking at the district's history of assessed valuation, this is your tax base. For tax year 2024, the district's AV did drop by about 3.5%. When we look a little bit closer, we can see that your residential values continue to be really strong, increasing by over $2 million. On the other hand, the drop in your AV was caused by non-residential businesses in your local community. We'll go over those fluctuations more in depth shortly. Total, your 5-year average growth rate for your AV is still sitting at 14%, and your 10-year average growth rate is still sitting at 8%. To be financially conservative, though, in case there are any continued fluctuations in your tax base, though, we're anticipating that your AV will continue to drop year over year, just in case. So looking a little bit closer at your history of major taxpayers, we can see that the changes, the fluctuations in your tax base really is due to Tucson Electric. Back in 2022, they had an assessed valuation of 42 million. Last year, that dropped down to 33 million. And then in 2024, our current tax year, their value dropped again down to $29 million. That's a business in your local community that we'll kind of continue to keep an eye on and consider as we continue to, sell bonds for the district. Another update, another thing that we're keeping an eye out for is some constitutional amendments that were approved by voters this past November. Constitutional Amendment 1 widened the property tax exemption for disabled veterans from 100% to essentially all disabled veterans. Really what this allowed is that a veteran can be exempt from their property taxes at the rate that they are disabled. So for example, if there's a veteran that is 50% disabled, that veteran would now be able to be exempt from 50% of their property taxes. In the past, you had to be 100% and that was it. Constitutional Amendment 2 increased the property tax exemptions for all veterans from $4,000 up to $10,000. These constitutional amendments can impact your assessed valuation. Recent data showed that the district had 39 veterans and 8 disabled veterans in your local community. We think that this would impact your AV by about 1% or about by $706,000 of value. State legislature is currently meeting to decide how they're going to roll this out, but it's something that, we're watching and we're taking into consideration as we sell the district's bonds. Looking at your history of tax rates, the district has, for tax in 2024, the district levied a $10.14 residential tax rate. That includes an SB9 mill levy rate, and then also a GO bond debt service rate of $7.96. Back in 2023, voters did approve a tax rate increase for that PSFA waiver. Tax year 2024 is the first time we've seen it on the rolls. Our current plan of finance is based off of keeping the tax rates at their current rates, that $10.14 residential rate. So the approval of the bonds tonight will not increase your tax rate, but rather continue to support that level tax rate. Looking over at your debt summary, the district has 6 general obligation bonds outstanding for a total of $1,480,000, all of which have also been sold with the New Mexico Finance Authority. Um, you can see that the district's debt is structured in a rapidly declining manner. The district has about $500,000 of debt service payments in 2025 and 26, but then it really falls off starting in 2027. Our plan is to kind of layer in debt so that it keeps your overall debt payments level, and in return, continue to keep your tax rate level at its current rates. So for the overall capital funding plan, the last time we went out to voters for GEO bonds was back in 2023 for $1.8 million. We have sold $900,000 of that authorization, and we're planning on selling the remaining $900,000 of authorization now. After this sale, the district will no longer have any authorization left and is scheduled to go back out to voters this upcoming November for an additional $1.8 million of general obligation bonds. For overall tax rate management, again, your total debt service tax rate historically was $5.14, but back in 2023, voters approved that tax rate increase to about $8 for that PSFA waiver. Our current plan of finance is based of keeping the tax rates at their current rates for that PSFA waiver. Additionally, at the bottom of this page, we have the district's legal bonding capacity. By law, the district could bond up to about $4.3 million. Since we only have about $1.5 million of general obligation bonds outstanding, we're only 33% bonded to capacity with over $2.8 million left in legal capacity. But the reason why we don't issue all that $2.8 million is because of tax rate constraints. The next slide is just an overview of the district's election timing. As I had mentioned, we're looking at going back out to voters this upcoming November for $1.8 million. And then for my last slide here, we just have a time schedule of this transaction. So with the board's approval tonight, we'll then have the New Mexico Finance Authority Board approve the district sale at their March 27th meeting. We'll then set the interest rate on the bonds a couple days later. Closing will be scheduled on May 9th, which is when funds will be ready for the district to spend on voter authorized projects. I'll be back at your March 19th meeting to present those sale results and to also discuss that 2025 election with you. I do have a market update in the back, but with that, I'll stop sharing and I'll stand for any questions that the board may have for me about, the district's wider plan of finance or about the resolutions that are in front of you tonight.
Questions?
So your opinion is the veterans tax exempt, is that, you think that's gonna, well, I mean, it is a constitutional amendment, but do you think it'll always be there?
I think so, yes. The way how it gets rolled out, though, is what we'll have to see. That second constitutional amendment of increasing the exemption from $4,000 up to $10,000 is pretty clear cut. But state legislature has quickly learned that, implementing that First Amendment, where it's that percentage of disability, is a bit trickier to implement. They're meeting currently to decide on how to roll it out. It sounds like they're going to do it in kind of tranches or buckets, as in, a 0 to 20% would get this much amount, a 20 to 40% disability would get this much. We're still waiting to see. We think also that this would impact your tax base probably in calendar year 2027. And another big factor too is if veterans know to apply for the exemptions too. We're still waiting to see, but we're just trying to be really conservative with our estimates on how this will impact your tax base.
Any other question? So there's two items below that.
So,
We're
correct.
up for approval, right?
Yes, Kaylee, so
Yeah.
there's two items here. Yes, go right ahead.
Yes. So the first item is consideration of an approval of a resolution authorizing and approving submission of an application to the New Mexico Finance Authority. This essentially just allows the district to ask the New Mexico Finance Authority to buy its bonds. The second resolution is approving the sale itself. Essentially what it does is that it delegates the authority to your business staff to be able to sign the bond documents so that the board wouldn't have to hold a special meeting to approve everything on the day of the sale. So first resolution approves the NMFA, second resolution approves the bond sale itself.
Okay. What is the interest rate now?
So the 10-year treasury is sitting at around 3.8%. I think that the district's total true interest cost would probably come in somewhere around that, probably even a little bit lower. The New Mexico Finance Authority has a disadvantaged funding program. Really what that allows is for the district's bonds to be priced at a 2% coupon. 10% of the district's bonds to be priced at a 2% coupon. So that would definitely help bring that true interest cost down a bit. Additionally too, as far as it goes for kind of the timing of pricings, initially we were thinking that the Fed may be more willing to cut rates a couple times this year. At the moment, it's not looking like that as much. We got a read of the consumer price index or inflation, last week, and that came in at 3%, a little bit hotter than expected. With this in mind, it's looking like the Fed isn't in any rush to cut rates anytime soon. Actually, I think I misspoke. I think I said 3.5 is what the 10-year treasury is at. It's actually closer to 4.5. I think the district's bonds will be closer to 3.5.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Well, I'll make the motion for the consideration and approval of the resolution.
Okay. Motion by Trevor,
I'll second it.
second by Dusty. That's a roll call vote, so
Destry,
yes.
Trevor,
Yes.
myself, yes. Chris,
Yes.
and Dusty.
Yes.
And then
Motion's been approved.
So you already have somebody sign it. I'll make a motion for it.
I'll second it.
Second on item D. Motion by Trevor,
Dusty.
Dusty and
oh, sorry,
Trevor.
second by Trevor. Moved by Dusty,
Destry,
yes.
Trevor,
Yes.
myself, yes. Chris Blake,
Yes.
and Dusty.
Yes. Okay.
Thank you, Ms. Katie.
All right, thank you. Should you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to myself or any of my colleagues. And like I said, I'll be back at your May meeting to present the sale results and how it went, and also talk about that 2025 election. I hope you have a great rest of your meeting. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am. So On this race, we're moving on to this Valley Collaborative Project presentation.
Yes, so with us today, we have Ms. Jenna McKinley, and we have been working together for probably about a year already. We discussed, here at the board meeting about the Permian Basin and the initiative that we're trying to do to bring more CTE programs into, to the valley, which is Hagerman, Lake Arthur, and Dexter. So you do have the slides there, but then she will also present it.
Perfect. Do you have a clicker?
No, yeah, you do have a clicker, right, Alan?
Yep.
Okay, yeah.
Perfect.
He'll be your manager.
Awesome. Well, thanks for having me. I appreciate Hagerman School District for allowing me to come present today. So as Belia mentioned, my name is Jenna McKinley. I work with Education Partnership of the Permian Basin. So it's kind of a funny story how all this all evolved, but I'll give you a little bit of background before I get started. So this initially started when I got the role. My background is in education. I worked for a long time for school districts. I'm from New Mexico, so even though EPPB is Midland-based nonprofit, I'm actually from Carlsbad, New Mexico. So born and raised Carlsbad, New Mexico, went to Mexico State, go Aggies, came back, worked for my home school district. I was a school teacher at Carlsbad schools for a while. Went to work in Ag Extension for a little while for NMSU, was really excited to be part of my alma mater there. And then turned around and I started working for the state virtual schools. When children come, it's just that time where you want to keep your career going, but also be a mom. So that was perfect for me. As my kids got a little bit older, got into school, that put me back into wanting to do something. So when I was in school, I was a CTE teacher. Always really loved the idea of being able to bring career opportunities to students. So I got a job with the college and started working in workforce development, which really opened my eyes to opportunities out in the Permian Basin. After that role, I was actually connected from an industry partner to this position with EPPB, and I've just been rocking and rolling since. I've now been with them for 2 years. When I first got started, I had one of my first tasks was to come out. I had to meet all the districts, right? I had to meet all the superintendents. Eddie Lee and Chavez County was my area when I got started. So I came down to Hagerman. I met with your previous superintendent, Mr. Klaus, and just had an informal conversation. Came by his office, had an informal conversation about what you guys are doing for career and technical education. What is his vision? What is he thinking for next steps for opportunities for students here? And he shared with me, different programs they're having, really highlighted the ag program and well-being and the business side of things. And at that time, he said that, they were open to other things, but they weren't sure about capacity. And I asked, what about a partnership with other school districts? Something that we're doing on the Texas side is we have something called Permian Basin Innovation Zone, which I'll share with you in a minute. And it's really an awesome model where schools are able to share instructors or share students, vice versa. And I told them, being a small district, I know that there's faces a challenge, with that being able to have those access to those programs. So would you be interested in a rural collaborative if I talk to the other districts, because you guys are so close? If we can get this going, see how it works. So if you want to change over, change again. So covering that region, it was a big scope for me, but this wasn't my only thing that I kind of got hired to do per se. I really wasn't hired to do that in the first place, but it just kind of fell on my lap and it was exciting because I was like, I think this could work. Really what I was hired to do was the Grow Our Own Action Network across Permian Basin and the Early Childhood Action Network. So I started Early Childhood Action Network in the region, and then I went in and I started doing the Grow Our Own Action Network, which is the oil and gas pathway guys might be hearing about. So we developed an oil and gas pathway for the state of New Mexico and also Texas. So I was part of that design team. I was the only educator on that team to be able to give feedback on the curriculum, working with various partners to get that going. Just being a part of that team, with the Texas time, we have individuals who do other initiatives, and that Permian Basin Innovation Zone was one that always stuck out to me. Go ahead and change. So about the model. So when I came in,
Go ahead and change that. I just started briefly talking about, I have a colleague on the Texas side that has this model that I think is really neat. So they work with various school districts. And with the rural collaborative model, it looks like this. Basically, it's a connection between business and industry, school districts, and also higher ed. Okay. So EPPB works as a coordinating entity for innovation zones, and that's basically being the boots on the ground, the backbone, being able to build these partnerships with industry, with school districts, with higher education, and all the workforce stakeholders in the area. So we, at that time, after everyone kind of agreed and informally, Belia came on board shortly after, so I got to meet Belia, and after meeting her, she was coming from the high school and just really excited about the opportunity. I just briefly gave this story about meeting with Mr. Klaus, and she's like, yeah, I'm interested in meeting with the other superintendents to see what this is all about. So that's what we did. We had that transparency out there with them and got to meet at Lake Arthur School District. We formally had a presentation for them, and really they were just all excited to hear about the opportunities that could come to their students if we brought this in. But the number one question, of course, was who's going to pay for this? Yeah. So started having those conversations, and it led to where we are at today. So the big thing is, of course, the experienced staff. So again, background with me, you guys heard that, but then also we have technical assistance partners that have really been helping us out when they do this in other areas. Go ahead and change. So this is a little bit about the PBIZ. So this is the one that I talked about that is already established under our nonprofit in the Midland area. So they are now in their third year, and this launched in fall 2023, and it's the same model. It's a collective impact model, which is breaking down barriers that rural communities are facing in terms of CTE. So their school districts, just like yours, they're great, have all these great programs. They have special programs that are like the hub of their school, and all students want to be part of that. And then they have these group of students where they're wanting other opportunities, and they start asking about, what about college? What can I do for college? But sometimes those options aren't available because maybe the school district don't have a partnership with a higher ed institution, or they didn't have a teacher to be able to employ full-time for that pathway. So it's really about closing the equity gaps and being able to access various pathways to individual schools. So they went and met with each of those districts. So there's 3 school districts there. Crane, Grand Falls, Royalty, and McCamey. They're right around Odessa area. They partnered them with UTPB and Odessa College, and we're able to basically do exactly what we're doing here. And I could also talk a little bit about that in their industry partners. Go ahead. So their pathways are medical, welding, education, and oil and gas. So basically taking the pathway that we created in partnership with the state, they formed it into a smaller version because their schools weren't fit to be able to have, a state-of-the-art lab. I'm not sure if you guys toured CTEC before, their oil and gas lab. Millions of dollars they've spent on this lab, but it's just not something that you see in smaller districts, right? We don't have the space, maybe not even the capacity to hire a full-time teacher, even though it would be awesome. It just doesn't work. But how can we get access to these programs for the smaller districts? Go ahead. So far, the number one thing that PBIZ is really loving is not only offering these opportunities to students, but building the bridge between students, schools, and industry. So you have that community engagement aspect. They've been able to partner with an advisory board that they formed with the hospitals, with Premier Energy, Blakely Construction, some of these other more mom and pop type businesses to be able to offer industry visits. So these businesses are offering like welding demos and how to use appropriate tools, and students are able to tour their facilities and kind of get a face-to-face look at what this actually looks like in the field. So exciting thing, back to what I was saying about the funding. So I shared all of that information with the districts there at that meeting, and the number one thing was, where are we going to get the funds? Thankfully, we had secured a partnership with the New Schools Venture Fund. So about a year ago, we all sat together. We applied for this grant with the help of our TA partners, and we got a grant for $215,000, which was supporting us for a planning year. So we're currently in our planning year. We're about halfway done with the planning year. So now we're here today to share with you about where we're at with things and what that looks like. Go ahead. So we work really closely with the New School Venture Fund. We're doing a roadmap to launch. So they're also guiding us in ways that other foundations wouldn't be able to guide us. Because their funding is tied directly to improving schools, they're able to offer us assistance in connecting us even further than just what's going on in our region and our state. They're connecting us with school districts that are across the United States trying to improve their school districts. Belio went with me to Houston recently in October, and we were able to network and got to just hear some really great, inspiring stories of individuals. Say, for instance, there's a team there that's in our cohort that they were bakers in a smaller district near Chicago. Their school districts were closing down due to funding. They didn't have the funding. So they took it upon themselves to create a nonprofit and do something similar where they're now being able to house schools and collaboratives in that area to be able to offer school to kids in that area, even though they don't have their home school base anymore, to be able to offer different opportunities for travel. So throughout the year, we've been working really close. I work with each of the school districts. We meet monthly, steering committee meetings, along with Eastern and Roswell. And what we've came out to so far is a medical software programming and teaching pathway. And this all ties to a labor market analysis, which I'll also talk about in just a minute. So basically, if we move forward with the 3 pathways this next year, it'll be students can leave going to Dexter to do a medical pathway, which is already established. We've been working closely with Eastern to be able to ensure that they have dual enrollment, dual credit opportunities to be able to get their CNA. They're also pending phlebotomy certifications, first aid, stop the bleed, and patient care tech certifications. Great thing about Dexter, they're really ahead on that program. So we did want to share it across the 3 districts and be able to help them clean that up and ensure that everything can keep moving forward for all 3 districts to have access to medical. So that would really help us with students that are wanting to go into the healthcare fields. Another thing, a great thing that you guys have here is your business pathway. And specifically, students have an interest in IT, which has already been something that was started here. And we've been working closely with Eastern for Hagerman to try to identify certifications that the students can get through that program. So we're looking at a Google certificate and also being able to implement a computer programming certification through Python for students. So that is all stuff that's in the works through this planning year. We're hoping to be able to give those teachers those resources for next year. And then lastly, teaching and training. This program would be housed through Lake Arthur. Students would leave with a teaching certificate from Eastern and Roswell with a pathway in early childhood education for early literacy. So talking about growing our own workforce, there's always a need for teachers. I heard that earlier in your meeting. We always have that need for teachers, and we do. And even if you don't stay in the field of teaching, it can always lead you into another path for training. There's a lot of different opportunities for anyone with an education background. It's just a matter of getting that education right. And there's also always a need for coaches and different things. So a good way for them to explore if that's something that they want to do. So this is a slide just kind of identifying what our labor market analysis look like. So we work with a company called Steady State Impact. And if you'd like to see more in detail what this looked like, we actually paid them to do a labor market analysis on Chavez County. So it's broken down to all the high demand, high wage occupations in Chavez County. So if students were to graduate tomorrow, what jobs would they be guaranteed to be able to find job openings in? And would they be able to afford a living wage by being in that job? So this really breaks that down, and that's just a snapshot of the overview. If you'd like to see the full details on that, I could have Belia send that over to you. It's a really invasive study that they did. So the pathways were not chosen just because it's something that we thought that the kids would like. We did it based on a labor market analysis that meets the needs of the community. So it shows there, the top 3 that we chose were the healthcare, computers and math, and education. Go ahead. So what does this look like? of course, it takes, a lot of partnering with the districts to keep things moving forward. So, we are in the commitment stage, so we actually meet tomorrow with the superintendents to go over logistics and commitment. So we'll be going over a draft MOU and what that looks like. Hopefully by next, board meeting, Belia should have an MOU to share with you guys for approval, just kind of what, our goals are, what our roles and responsibilities are, what the term of the partnership looks like, and then also, everything that entails our funding, our budget, all the resources, where our money's being spent, all of that stuff. So you guys will be seeing, that formal MOU coming soon. We want to be able to get that on the agenda, by March, and then, hopefully get everything approved by April so we can continue moving forward. Do you have any questions so far?
I do.
Okay.
So who supplies the teachers?
So the great thing about the grant currently is that we're starting with programs that schools are already hosting. So they already have their teachers. We will confirm the teachers tomorrow with the superintendents on who is teaching what based on the current teachers. But like, for instance, if you think about the education program, even though that program will be housed at Lake Arthur, they have an education teacher. Students for that particular pathway will have a class in the evenings at Eastern once a week. So the college will be able to provide that teacher for that class. They do have funding at Eastern already that's tied to the pathway and what we're looking at. So they'll be able to help cover that class.
Okay. So this is all running off of a grant.
Yes. So it's all running off the New School Venture Fund grant. We have secured the planning funding and we're in the process of funding the implementation year through the same funder. As long as we keep up with the reporting, everything looks good. We're on track to get funding for next year as well, and then possibly a third year.
So it's a yearly grant
It's
every
a yearly
year.
grant.
So this isn't part of the Permian Basin, that $40 million grant, right? Then PED came and they took and they said, well, we're just gonna divvy it amongst all CTEs across the state.
So this is through the Permian Basin, but it's not part of the 40 million and the PED took. No, that's totally different.
That's different. Okay.
Yeah, different. And, as we grow, we're going to be adding things as well. Superintendent's already really excited about the work that I've done around the oil and gas pathway. And I know Dexter in particular, they were really excited to hear that we also have a program that we're starting for a fourth pathway in Midland, which is a renewable energy pathway, which is also one that is a priority right now for the state of New Mexico. With the power plants being so close, I also think that could be another opportunity for students to be able to get some experience there. And we do have already an industry partner who is helping us build that out on the Texas side. So it'd be really easy to bring that one over to New Mexico since they also have operations here through Next Era Energy. So that would be our year 2. So everything is kind of what you guys already had in existence this year, other than partnering for next year with the college to be able to clean that up, be able to offer those certifications, and then of course, man the logistics and what that looks like. So we'll be in our learning year next year, seeing how busing is gonna work and how students are gonna get from school A to school B and working out the kinks and all of that. And of course, the pay and what that looks like between sharing students and all of that. So we're working on trying to figure out as much as we can out now, but next year will be our learning year. And then by that second year, we wanna add that oil and gas or renewable energy pathway. So we have able to offer 4 different pathways for students across the 3 districts.
So just out of curiosity, what happens if you don't get the grant, then?
Okay, so one of the big things that's part of my role is building partnerships with funders. I've already built partnerships and I do have backup funders for that. EY Foundation has already expressed interest in this collaborative, and they'd be willing to support us to continue the work. They're specifically interested in the Valley schools and wanting to support that. Also been visiting with the Maddox Foundation, which is out of Hobbs, but they also support neighboring districts as well. So that could be another option too.
Okay.
And as always, if you guys ever want to hear anything else, I'm happy to join you guys for a meeting or even give you guys a tour. Like I said before this role, that's what I did, was I would support the oil and gas pathway across other districts in Texas and New Mexico. We do actually have a tour for our superintendents that we're setting up to go see the Permian Basin Innovation Zone. So I'd love for you guys to come look to see what that looks like. It would be a really great way to meet each other and kind of get all your questions answered. We'll be able to visit that collaborative. You could also look into the RSIZ. It's in South Texas. That was actually the first of this model to be done. So that's around like the Harlingen area. These schools started that. So that was the first of the US. Then we have the Permian Basin Innovation Zone, which is Odessa, and then will be our third in this area. And then we also started one in the Big Bend, Marfa area through our organization. So now VRC is the third one through EPPB that we started. And then it's actually the first in the state of New Mexico. So that puts you guys also on the map for CTE. And we're going to be bringing in, of course, a lot of attention to this school district and some of the partnering ones for being a model for CTE. And I'm really excited for that.
Jenna, can you tell them the rationale behind this?
Yes. Basically to improve experiences to students. You know, there's not a lot of opportunities that are shared, and especially with students in rural districts to be able to get hands-on experiences and be able to see, experience what different career fields are out there. So I talked a lot about, you know, my experiences. I was the first in my family to go to college, you know, so I didn't really have that, but being exposed to other careers and be able to see also gives you exposure to other careers. So oil and gas is just one that I love to use for example, because that's what I've been working with the last couple of years. But you know, a lot of schools have welding programs, which are great programs, but that's only one small part of our operations in this region. In the program that we started with oil and gas, like we're training individuals to be pumpers, to read measurements, to be able to work as safety professionals, because they have to learn all the safety stuff. We're talking about water and the different fields that you can work in the water industry, to be a water technician in oil and gas. And all of these operations are out here, which are, you know, very high wage paying jobs, and they're high need, and they will be sustainable, you know, based on our data that we have. But I think it's a matter of just showing kids that, you know, we want to be able to give them those opportunities, even if it's someone that's in IT. There's other opportunities if you work in IT to work in some of these industries, and it's all interconnected, or public relations. We talked a lot about your ag students, and I love seeing the ag students. So I look forward to seeing them in a future board meeting with their presentations. You know, a lot of those students go into fields like being public relations. You know, they're good presenters. They also can be connected if they had a background and they, say, for instance, took the oil and gas pathway class. How much knowledge would they have behind them for an entry-level job in the oil and gas industry, on top of their speaking, presentation skills that they got from being in Skills USA or FFA. I think that it just all ties together. And, you know, whether students are going straight to the workforce or whether they're wanting to be an engineer, it gives them that background knowledge that they need to be successful. You know, we're supporting them in anyways. A lot of the companies in the area, if they do work for a company, they end up paying for their college sometimes or their training. So it is giving them those other opportunities that they don't necessarily need to go to a four-year college to get that experience. There's some local hospitals or local gas industries that are willing to pay for your training right here.
I was just kind of surprised by the survey because nowhere does it say anything about oil or gas or agriculture on the labor market analysis.
Oh, on that labor market.
Yeah, that's just kind of surprised me with Chavez County.
With Chavez County, yeah. Eddie and Lee, it doesn't really spike up out there. Chavez is really low, and that's more based on the census data. But if you'd like to see that more invasive survey, we can get that to you. But yeah, we all know this stuff isn't always the most accurate based on the census stuff. But we all know that that's stuff that a lot of you guys travel to, you know, to neighboring cities to work in those industries. So we just want to be able to give those opportunities out there. And I think I even use the opportunity that I said about healthcare. Like students might think that they're going into nursing, but might start working for a Chief General Hospital and decide, oh, I want to be a X-ray technician, and didn't even know that that was a field, and it's really a high-paying field that they can get trained right there. So It's all about opportunity and access and just being able to give our students the tools in their toolbox that they need to be successful. And that's our goal here.
Nobody signs up to be a farmer.
Nobody even-
You ask a kindergartner, what do you want to be when you grow up? Nobody ever says a farmer.
That'll last their daddy.
Yeah, that's it.
I think this is a great opportunity for Hagerman kids, and you know, bottom line is that a lot of these industries, a lot of our kids are going, you know, they graduate from high school, they go straight to work, they're not prepared. And I think, you know, it's the main goal, to be able to prepare our kids for the workforce.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So is this, an action item?
No,
No, it's not just a presentation,
It's just a
sorry.
it was
Presentation.
marked as one. but-
Okay.
Next item is E or G. Approval of the proposal for the PSCOC increase, square footage increase.
Yeah, so as you all know, or some of you, you know, we're already in the planning stage with our new programming stage, planning with our new school. And the more, you know, I think about it, it's coming to reality. So I think it's great. So the last time we had this on the agenda, however, we decided to table it until we had more information. So then, just to give you a little bit, so that, you know, PSFA, PSCOC, they recently announced an update to the square footage, you know, GSF calculator, which impacts the allocation for our new combined K-12 schools. So the original MOU that we received, we were awarded for 69,000 square footage for our new school. However, under the updated calculator, this allocation increases to 83,000, which is a significant, you know, increase. So then the current right now, you know, the PSCOC and the Hagerman Municipal Schools Agreement, we initially based this on the school size for 375 students. We have seen, based on the 40th day count, we have seen an increase. So right now we are up to 402, which that includes the pre-K students. However, the pre-K students do not reflect on the 40th day count. And which, you know, that gives us an increase of 10% from the original student population in the original MOU. So this enrollment growth makes it critical to secure additional square footage to accommodate, you know, the students effectively. And then currently, for the planning and design phase, Hagerman Municipal Schools, we have a share, and it's 345,000. With the additional square footage, it will be an approximately $51,000 more, which, you know, we can do it because we filed a waiver, which our waiver for the planning and design phase, out of the 1.800 million that we, you know, with our bond, with our GEO bond. So we, you know, it was 624 for the planning and design, and then another 624 for the construction, and then the rest would be for the teacher housing. However, you know, with the PSFA, they were able to help us out in the planning and design phase. Instead of being 624, it was 345. So with 345 and then an additional, if we go with the additional square footage, it will be an additional 51,000. So it will be about 400,000. The construction phase, it will be about 624 to 649. And this is excluding the additional square footage. The additional cost, we still do not know how much it will be, but it will be determined by, you know, at the future PSCOC meeting before the construction begins, which we definitely need to go in. You know, we already applied for the waiver, but then it hasn't been awarded until we start with the construction phase. So with that, you know, I am requesting, if you want me to send out a letter, I do have to submit a letter to PSFA, PSCOC, so that we can get an increase of square footage, and I believe we will be okay funding wise.
Does this didn't include the other stuff we discussed the other day with the,
This does not include the other stuff,
Numbers.
so that one I have to also add it to my letter. And that's why when, I mentioned here that we have, so our award was for 375 students. However, if, I am going to request and submit our 40th day count, which, right now it's about 402 students, so that would give us additional. So the letter will have both. It will have the new square footage, the new calculator, and then also request, see if they could get, fund us at least for the 402 students that we currently have.
and this is just to get approval for this square footage. We don't have to technically build it that big.
Correct.
So we're not gonna run into a cost issue where we get it approved, but then we don't have enough funds to cover.
So, we went out, but this GO bond was 1.8. And we have the funding for that right now. But then with this new bond coming up, there will be no cost, there will be no increase. And it will be again for another 1.8 million. So we will have the funds.
Any other questions? Or we're just approving the extra additional square footage for
Yes.
for paperwork.
Better to have it, not need it.
I think we're gonna need it.
Well, I mean, not,
Stand up, motion to approve.
I'll make the motion. I'll second it.
And then I will craft the letter and then submit it. I'll send you guys a copy and then submit it to PSFA.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Okay, motion carries. Superintendent report.
Okay, I will be very brief. So you do have a copy of the bills that are being heard and, this is, just I wanted you to provide you with an update on this ongoing legislative session. So all of these are the educational bills. I did send it to you also via email, so it's a lot easier to click on the link and then you'll be able to read exactly what each one entails. And then, so right now, the legislative, they're about halfway through. So there's several bills related to education that are still pending, including, HB 38. There's a few of them that have already passed. And there's one of them, which is I believe this one is HB 2, which there will be an increase of minimum salaries for teachers. So the minimum, for salaries for teachers will be level 1, 55,000, level 2, 65, level 3, 75. There's another one that there is the minimum, like for example, the minimum for custodian will be like $30,000, and that will be the starting pay. Hopefully, all of this will be funded. And so I will continue monitoring these bills and then provide you further updates as more information becomes available, in the coming weeks. But this one here will give you like a really good synopsis of what that is. Okay. And any questions on these bills? I know there's so many of them. There's so many of them, and every day they're,
I went through it this morning. It's a lot.
It's a lot. It is a lot.
Which one was the wages for the teachers?
Two. And it's not even on this one here.
House Bill 2 or Senate
Yes.
Bill?
I think it's a House bill.
House Bill 2. Let's see.
Yes,
I don't think it was in this packet. Because I went looking through it this morning because there is a licensure pay bill in there, but it's just going over like clarification and stuff.
There's so many of them that it would take me all night, just to go through every single one of these. But at your leisure time, and I didn't email it to you so that you could be able to click on it and be able to open it and open the extended version.
How about an electric school bus?
I go out there to
School.
buy one for years, gonna have to be electric.
We could try to go electric. That's the push.
Or maybe we'll have to include no charging stations in the new school build.
I don't know
And
how
I
you-
think-
On athletics, how do you
How do you
even,
do
I mean,
that
how do you do
athletics?
that with athletics?
I don't think, Lake
Go
Arthur,
behind
they
the
do
next
have,
security.
I believe they do have, they purchased like 2 of them, those electric buses, but they only use them like, yes.
Well, and I know their chargers, they installed them in the hack shop there, and they don't even have enough power to charge them.
If I'm not mistaken, for the new school, I think that's one of the requirements. We have to have those, the
It's in
charging
It's
stations.
in the building code now
Yes.
for residential. You have to
Yes.
have that in your garage.
Mhm. Okay, so that's on that, just something that you guys can look at. And then, so I just wanted to let you know that we're also in the process of forming the committee, and that already passed pretty much, with the 4-day week. That, if the schools that are 4-day week, they continue to be a 4-day week. For us, it really doesn't affect anything. But we're in the process of forming a committee with teacher representatives from each building, along with the admin team, so that we can begin working on the academic calendar for next year. So our goal is to mirror the 2024 calendar while considering, of course, the addition of a few more instructional days. And, the more instructional days that we have, then the more funding for the school. So we hope to have the final draft prepared for your review and approval at the next board meeting. So if you have any recommendations, just let me know on that. And then we have, this week is early release, and I think, the principals already mentioned that. We will be having the Bobcat break. And, once again, the kids really enjoy that. So last time, I believe they had 69 kids. And, we help them out with the snacks. So I think that is just a great thing. And really, that's all I have for today. I do stand for questions.
Have we ever discussed a 4-day week?
Everything.
Or there hasn't any discussion, or has anybody ever brought it up? Or
I don't know if they're opening it up for new schools, but once they do, I really think that's something that we need to look into it.
Teachers have thrown it out. I know when we sat the other day, we kind of tossed it back and forth. The judge did ban that 180-day rule for this next school year. And so they're kind of, I know PED, and you can correct me, you know more about your friends at PED than I do. I know they're waiting on clarification what that means.
That they threw it out?
Yeah, they blocked that. 180
Yeah,
day rule.
it's blocked. I mean, so basically, if you're a 4-day, all you have to do is just make sure that you meet the requirement, which is the hours, which is, 1140 hours. But they don't allow any new. If like, for example, Hagerman, if we want to go into 4-day, it's not open.
Well, so if I'm not mistaken, Loving just did it. They just decided that we're gonna be a 4-day week.
But they've been though. They've been.
Well, I think it was from COVID, because I remember Mr. Williams, we talked about it, because we were basically 4-day, because it shut down on Wednesday to clean the school.
Mhm.
So let's just roll into it. Mr. Williams was kind of like, I don't think it's a wise decision. And Loving this is what we're gonna do.
Mhm.
And that's what, and from that point.
I will definitely look into it, and I know that Lake Arthur, the way they do it, they have every Friday early release.
Every
So
other
that-
Friday, isn't it?
I think it's every Friday. And so maybe that, that could be a part too, something else to.
Tularosa went to every other Friday. And so,
And how many professional development days do we have to have?
So we have to have, so right now, we have, it has to be, and that's another bill that it's on here for the secondary. So for the elementary, it's 60. And I believe it's 60 hours. And then for the secondary is 30. But now there's a bill that the secondary will also be having 60. Right now, we pretty much meet the 60 goal, for the entire district. We will continue having right now we have 10 early release days, and that's throughout the year.
So would the professional development, would it affect the 4-day school? Like, could you do that 1 day of professional development on the 5th day?
You know what, I could look into it, and I don't know if they will allow it, because I know that so what they'll do, okay, that would be, let's say, 36. So you take 36 and possibly times, because we have to get out at 1 o'clock. So that would be about 2.5 hours every day. We might be able to pull it and just say, every Wednesday. I don't think I want to do Fridays. I don't know, or maybe.
Fridays might be tough. Just my thought,
Mhm.
because if you have football games or just things like that, the students have to be at the school for a certain amount of time
Correct.
to
And
play.
it might be okay for the kids, because we do have to, in order to have a early release, it will be at 1 o'clock. So even if it's Friday. And I know we had a Friday, about 4 years ago, that we would,
The first year we implemented the early releases.
the early release, and I think it was on a Friday, but then we had the issue where so many staff members had something that they had to do. So we never had enough people to be able to do a professional development. And then sometimes we pay for this PD, and then people are not here.
I see.
So then this year, we decided to do Wednesdays, and it's working much better. But sometimes a Friday, it's okay, because sometimes we can't find the substitutes. But then again, on Fridays, I think we encountered the problem that the coaches were always gone. And, they were never here for for PD. And then usually, so on Wednesdays, we have no games, so we found that it was a better day. Roswell, all the elementary schools, they do every Wednesday. And they leave at 1:45. I believe that's the time that, that they dismiss. So maybe that's something else like we can look into it. So we'll have, a variety of calendars for you to look at, and then usually PED approves, and then you guys approve, or,
Or Patty yells at you.
So we can definitely look at different options. And if that ever comes up, the 4-day, I think that would be the ideal.
I think we can get some teachers then.
Right, make travel for FFA and all that stuff so much easier.
I've changed in about a year.
So I don't have anything else, but I do stand for questions.
Any questions or other questions?
Just an update on our sped student that we discussed last meeting.
I
The
don't
letter went
think- I don't think we can discuss it during open, right?
Probably shouldn't.
Give me a second, I can shut this down.